Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and today we're looking at the new Halo Infinite trailers that are dropping right as we speak. These ones are called the UNSC Archives, not to be confused with the archives of the most detailed series that I've got here on my channel. The particular archive we're looking at today is the very first one, Unspoken. The idea is we'll look at the trailer, but we'll also delve into some of the lore that is coming through in the information we're getting from this trailer.
Activating verbal reconstruction. Begin.
Dear Mr. and Mrs. Dominguez, you don't know me, but I know you. I served with your son. He spoke of you all the time. I was there. We were ambushed by jackals. David didn't flinch. He led. He was brave, and I followed him into battle. Together we fought them off, but we paid a price. While they carried us to the medevac, all he was worried about was you. I tried to tell him that his parents would be proud, but my throat. And then I started to feel confused, and I lost consciousness. When I awoke, he was gone. David saved many, many lives. He seized vital technology, critical to UNSC defenses. He was the brother I always wanted. He will always be my brother. And your son. He loved you. He loved you to the end.
This has massive Believe campaign vibes to me. The human-centric aspect of the story that's being told here, while simultaneously extrapolating on information about MJOLNIR, in particular Chief's version of MJOLNIR, is a beautifully eloquent way to advertise the game and to expand the lore. Before I really delve into the lore, I want to take a moment to appreciate the acting that went into this. It focuses on Lance Corporal Chris Preston, a survivor from the evacuation of Harvest. He helped fight back a Covenant skirmish aboard the freighters that were evacuating. He fought alongside David Dominguez, the person specifically he is addressing the parents of in this video. David was unfortunately KIA. Lance Corporal Preston, Chris, is quite evidently recovering from his injuries and suffering from survivor's guilt. This is a particularly devastating aspect of post-traumatic stress disorder, especially prevalent among veterans. When a person has immense feelings of guilt because they survived a life-threatening situation while others did not, more often than not being their brothers in arms, and any soldier, any veteran, any person in the military will tell you that the bond that they develop with their brothers and sisters in arms is unlike any other connection they have with any other human being in their lives. And losing one in battle is tantamount to losing a family member. But Chris still wants to extend the courtesy to tell them what happened and give them some degree of closure. This is the human-centric story that is so often left untold, but that boils to the surface in moments like these and reiterates just how devastating the Human Covenant War really was. We're so used to seeing the war from the perspective of a Spartan II super soldier, from behind the visor of one of the most sophisticated pieces of powered assault armor ever created by humanity, and just dominating the battlefield, with swathes of aliens just falling by the wayside in our wake. This isn't always the reality of the conflicts that happen in the Halo universe, and this video is an excellent demonstration of just how severe things can get. Stepping away from that, Chris is actually recovering on Anchor 9. Anchor 9 is the facility that we defend during Halo Reach. This is a lovely way to tie this video into existing lore. And although this is a new trailer and there is some new lore that's being presented here, this actually harkens back to the time of Halo Reach. I'm sure many of you recall that Halo Reach launched with a copy of Dr. Halsey's journal, and it just so happens that there are pages in Dr. Halsey's journal that specifically look at the energy shield gauntlets of the Jackals in relation to reverse engineering them for MJOLNIR. The particular insert reads as follows: November 22nd, 2535. Received the top secret Hencheck findings. A Lieutenant Hencheck procured a cache of Covenant weapons and miscellaneous artifacts in a recent skirmish in the Indra asteroid cluster. A UNSC sniper hit a plasma round from some kind of Covenant launcher. This extremely lucky shot detonated the round and destroyed all organic matter within 10 meters. Hencheck secured a Pelican full of gear before enemy reinforcements arrived. He later died from radiation poisoning. Their weaponry is astonishing. No instrumentality, none of the surface controls or triggers connects in any way I recognise to the interior workings. Indeed, interior workings itself is a mere conjecture, because all we found inside the weapons are components that we can't begin to understand. These elements are impervious to our scanners, and when physically penetrated, their content self-destructs, in most cases violently. How did the Covenant species build these devices? Why wouldn't there be traces of their production designs buried within their architecture? It makes logical sense that we would see this, as we do in our own machines, yet we don't. Not a trace. Even more confounding is the core nature of their implements. While we are all well aware of their destructive capabilities on the planetary scale, much of their weapon technology seems heavily polarized yet uniformly purposed. Covenant weapons range from being wildly obliterative to somewhat inferior to our own ballistic counterparts. It almost seems as though the technology was originally developed for some other purpose or purposes. These things aside, the immediate conclusion is grim and obvious. We are unable to replicate their technology. The trailer here states that both Chris and David assisted in fighting back the skirmish that happened as a consequence of the Covenant boarding the freighters that were fleeing Harvest through the Indra asteroid cluster. David led and Chris fought by his side. However, in Halsey's journal, the collection of the energy shield gauntlet was attributed to a Lieutenant Hencheck. On top of this trailer apparently took place on the 17th of January 2526, Meanwhile, the insert into Halsey's journal concerning Lieutenant Henchek and the Covenant Shield gauntlets happened on November the 22nd, 2535, over 9 years, in truth nearly 10 years later. Now again, there could be pieces of narrative missing, implying that something happened between 2526 and 2535, whereby that energy shield gauntlet and cache of Covenant technology was gradually transported and made its way into Dr. Halsey's hands over that 10-year period, or that this particular cache of Covenant shield gauntlets that were acquired in 2535 were actually quite a separate cache of technology, in which case it is curious as to why this information is being presented to us, implying that the energy shield technology was available, or at least made its way into human hands in 2526, when we have other lore that states 2535. One does wonder if perhaps that's Oni manipulating information to some degree, but to what ends? It's not always clear what Oni have to gain from manipulating information such as this, but they must have done it for a reason if that is the case, if it's not just a simple narrative oversight. The purpose behind this trailer is to basically shed light on how the MJOLNIR platform gained its energy shields and attribute it to the actions of soldiers in the field. This gives every component of MJOLNIR a grounded and sacrifice-steeped humanity, implying that every component of MJOLNIR came at great cost to the lives of the men and women of the UNSC in order to give the Master Chief, the hero of humanity, his legendary armor. It gives narrative and story to the suit of Master Chief, this time leaving by the wayside the Master Chief himself. It's worth noting that although the energy shield gauntlets of the Jackals were used to create the energy shields of MJOLNIR, in the first instance humanity didn't have a clue about how to even begin to assess the energy shield gauntlets. Every single time they attempted to take them apart or to probe them and find out how they worked, they would self-destruct or just simply not give any results on the scanners. It was actually the work of a Leonard Gillespie, a graduate student for Dr. Forrester, who cracked the energy shield gauntlet and began the very slow process of reverse engineering it. And it's worth noting that Dr. Halsey actually had him moved to Reach so that she could keep a closer eye on him and obviously factor those innovations in energy shield technology into the MJOLNIR platform. And it's only now at this stage do we appreciate that through the vast majority of the Human Covenant War, MJOLNIR had no energy shields. None. Nothing. The Human Covenant War broke out in 2525. The trailer apparently happens in 2526. The Henchek findings didn't happen until 2535. Leonard Gillespie didn't crack the technology until 2536, and wasn't properly implemented on a MJOLNIR platform until the MJOLNIR Mark V platform, which was at its earliest issued to several Spartan 3 commandos on November the 24th, 2551. The last 2 years of the Human Covenant War was the only time that MJOLNIR actually had energy shields. For all of the rest of the Human Covenant War, Spartans were operating without shields. And the final point I want to touch upon here is the room in which Chris Preston is actually sat. There is evidently some sort of recording device, perhaps backed in some degree by maybe a dumb or smart AI. It's effectively tracking his hands. It's translating sign language on the go, while simultaneously tracking Chris's face and bringing up small parts of his service record, as well as tracking the injury on his neck. This is a small part of an underlying technological narrative that surrounds the UNSC and how technology has advanced over the centuries to help humans interact with each other in a more effective means, and it's actually permeated into the game. We don't even realise it. In all the occasions, at least at face value, that you hear the Covenant talking in English, you're not actually hearing the Covenant talking in English. Some of the Covenant members do actually know English and can speak English, but most of the time, particularly in battle, what you're hearing is MJOLNIR's suit systems translating the speech of the Covenant around you into English, so you can understand what they're being said to give you that strategic edge in combat. So if they're planning to flank you, you actually can hear that being spoken about. It's an interesting drive towards open accessibility, as there damn well should be that many centuries in the future, whereby if you have an ailment, society is effectively ready and adapted to completely and utterly facilitate your continued interaction with society. While yes, there probably is medical technology to restore sight and hearing loss and things like that, it's still nice seeing the little attentions to detail in that society as a whole, as a culture, would have continued to advance over the centuries, becoming more inclusive of people who have differing senses, differing primary senses, than what we would class as being normal or typical for a human. People who are blind can effectively know that it's Spartan 117 by feeling the braille on his chest. People who are deaf can gesture, can do their sign language, and AI or some sort of algorithm will track their gestures and automatically convert it to speech. And in MJOLNIR's systems, MJOLNIR will translate Covenant alien speech into English to give Spartans the strategic edge. This and all of the lovely other little details that are coming through with this new ad campaign are absolutely addictive and immersive, and are just adding a huge amount of substance, a human factor and narrative to the lore. It's telling a story through the experiences of the men and women of the UNSC, which all feed into making the suit of MJOLNIR all the more purposeful, all the more steeped in lore, all the more steeped in stories, in sacrifice, in suffering. That MJOLNIR came about as a consequence of the blood, sweat, tears, toil and lives of normal people, normal soldiers, normal humans. And I find it particularly interesting that the first Become trailer that we received was the assembly of MJOLNIR, with Halsey's monologue over the top of it suggesting that armour can't win wars, and among other things, just effectively interpreting the armour as being a completely inanimate object, only useful, only purposeful when you put it on. And yet in these trailers we're getting a story told for every component of MJOLNIR that suggests that every single aspect of that immense suit of armour is absolutely saturated in meaning and purpose. That duality, that dichotomy, is immensely enthralling, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of these.
Thanks for watching. Stick your comments down below, I look forward to what you have to say. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members Neek the Solid Cartographer, Siphonic Storm and Todd Morrison, my Tier 0 Transcendients, Brian, Sebastian, Darian, Red Sea, Stalk of the Realms, Falcon X003, Starlight, Alvin, Flaming Halo, Josh, Legions Lost, Kyle, Cat Erdicam, Schneidish, Leon, Ignizzle, Chris, Cooper, Prophet, and Devon, the holders of the mantle, my glorious reclaimers, my loyal metarchs, and all the other patrons and YouTube members that have jumped aboard to support the channel. Much love to you guys, thanks so much for your support. It's keeping things happening and helping development of the channel and future awesomeness in a big way. If you like Halo lore discussed to insane levels of detail, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. Be sure to support us on all major social media channels, including Discord, and if you really love the channel, consider heading over to Patreon and supporting the channel over there, or jumping on as a channel member. It means the world to me and affords you loads of great perks and bonuses, while also helping work towards some awesome stuff in the near and distant future. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.